Well, not every game has a clear-cut angle. Some games, the pros are just leaning towards one side or the other. For a look at the leans of the Week 12, let's bring in sports handicapper Geoff Sheasby once again. And Geoff, the Saints giving 9.5 at home against the Panthers. The Saints have beat the spread 7 out of their last 8 weeks. Does that consistency play any role in this game for you?
Definitely love the consistency there, and I think, worth noting that that's with 2 different quarterbacks, right? That's with Teddy Bridgewater as well as Drew Brees. So the rest of the team is really performing well.
And without Alvin Kamara on a couple of those games too.
Yeah, 100%. And Kamara now back. The combination of Kamara and Murray, I think, is going to be fierce this week. Carolina has struggled mightily against the run. They're 32nd in defensive efficiency via Football Outsiders there. But I think, the thing that I really love here is just fading Kyle Allen. I think he came out what appeared to be hot, but I think it was more just a surprise that he was even serviceable. They came out and they won a bunch of games. He threw for some pretty good stats. Last 4 games, it seems like defensive coordinators have figured him out. 3 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That's certainly not going to cut it against a pretty stiff Saints defense.
He threw 4 interceptions the last time out. I mean, you don't expect a guy to regress that much in the course of one season, especially when he comes out so hot, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. They beat up on bad teams early. That's going to be Arizona, Jacksonville, Tampa Bay. But they have been getting absolutely stomped in the last couple of games. 38-point loss to San Francisco, a 26-point loss to Atlanta. So when they're playing kind of top-tier talent, all of a sudden, the proof's in the pudding, if you will. I don't think they're as good as people think. It seems like if you can stop McCaffrey, you're stopping the Panthers. Again, other side of the ball, the Saints are firing on all cylinders. Michael Thomas is a lock for 100 yards literally every week. Probably 8 catches, maybe a touchdown. Breeze looked good in most of his games back, a little rusty, against the Falcons, but he still threw for 300 yards. They just stalled in the red zone in that 26-9 loss. So, I feel pretty good about taking the Saints this week at 10.5.
McCaffrey has had an MVP season from week 1. How has it taken till midway through the season for teams to realize that you've got to stop, McCaffrey before you can somehow find a way to stop the Panthers' offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's ultimately that electric that, no matter how you game plan for him, and then Kyle Allen was serviceable, so that's opening up holes. But the Saints' defense is pretty good, 8th and 9th against the pass and the rush. So, top 10 on both of those. And I think just the high-powered offense. Carolina, again, pretty solid against the pass, 7th in the league, but with a 32nd in the league against the run. That two-headed monster of Murray and Kamara, I think, are going to be tough for them to play, especially if you consider now some screen passes and things along those lines to get Breeze going.
They both get involved in the passing attack, and that's what makes them so dangerous. All right, Sharps love home dogs, okay? This week, that's the Jets. They're getting 3 points at MetLife against the Raiders. Look, a lot of stats still show the Jets at the bottom of the league, but do you take into account their recent offensive success when you start playing out how to handicap this game?
Yeah, the Jets are the Jets, right? I think we came on here a couple weeks ago in the preseason and talked about how I love the Jets over 7.5. That obviously, we need to win out. It's not dead yet. But nonetheless, we looked at them back-to-back weeks going 34 points. On paper, great. We opened up the hood. We're playing against the Redskins and the Giants, 27th and 28th in defensive efficiency, respectively. So, maybe the offense isn't doing that great, but wait, we've got the Oakland Raiders. Guess what rank they are? They're 29. So we got another mediocre defense coming in here with the Oakland Raiders. We'll look at the ATS trends here. Both the Jets and the Raiders are right where they should be, 6-4 and 4-6. Oakland leads in the offensive categories of points per game, points per play, yards per game, yards per play, average score margin on the offensive side, but the Jets lead on all of those defensive categories. So it's a very fair game here. I'm going to take the momentum of the Jets at home plus points in a game that should be probably pretty sloppy, but nonetheless, let's get Le'Veon Bell going, let's get Jamison Crowder going, let's get Robbie Anderson free. Let's find some confidence here for Darnold to not make this season a total wash, and then selfishly trend towards that over 7.5.
Okay, hopefully we'll get back to that again. It's right on that field goal line, though. The Raiders aren't exactly blowing anybody out. Does that make you a little bit more, I guess, want to lean a little bit more towards the Jets because the Raiders aren't blowing anybody out?
Yeah, I think the Raiders, honestly, are supremely overrated. But nonetheless, I think with that small line in a game that statistically looks to be pretty fair, I'll take the points. I'll take the home field advantage. And plus, with 3 points, probably, pick them on a neutral field.
Right.
That's fine. MetLife, swirling winds. Go Darnold.
Well, let's see if that comes to fruition. All right, Seattle getting a lot of action on the road. Philly, a 2-point dog. 80% of the money is on Seattle. What does that tell you?
80% of the money on Seattle. You know, I'm going to ride with Joe Public here. Man, is this bet square, but man, does it feel good.
So you're saying 80% of the money are smart people who are throwing money down on this game?
I hope so. 80% of the bets. Sorry, I haven't looked at the money splits there.
Okay.
But nonetheless, you know, the line isn't moving where it should. But I think when you look at Philly here, obviously they're coming off a close loss to the Patriots last week. But that was a rematch of the Super Bowl. There felt like there was almost an intangible energy there. When we look at the body of work from Eagles, they haven't beaten anybody. They only beat the Redskins by 5. They beat Green Bay, good win, but the Jets, the Bills, the Bears, all average wins. Tough games, blown out by Dallas, blown out by Minnesota. The Pats, of course, we just touched upon, and Atlanta and Detroit, also not great losses. So combo kind of that body of work with the fact that they quite literally don't have wide receivers.
Yeah.
They just brought back Jordan Matthews after not being in the league for quite some time. He proved when he was in the league that he has concrete for hands. So I'm not particularly, scared of that. Miles Sanders in the running game, obviously pretty good. But here we have a Seattle team that's 8-2, that's crushing it against the spread. They're 4-1 in the spread on the road. Certainly potentially a regression candidate. They've been overachieving a little bit, but I don't think that comes this week at the link.
I was going to say, I mean, this seems like a perfect storm leading towards a Seattle victory.
Mm-hmm.
Not only the Eagles, with all of their injuries, they don't have any big concrete wins, and Seattle is on that roll that they're on right now. And we've seen what a team like that, when they get a little bit of extra confidence, can do, home or away.
Yeah, amen. I mean, when Russell Wilson gets going, there's no stopping him. Outside of Brady, I'd probably want him as my quarterback. Yeah, whatever, throw Mahomes and Rodgers in there. But Seattle's 4th in offensive efficiency here. They're number 1 in pass efficiency. The Philly defense is 12th in pass efficiency. So there's a great delta there. And then with the injuries on offense, all you have to do at this point is probably stop either Miles Sanders. I don't think Howard's playing. They signed Ajayi, but he hasn't played in over a season. So unless Wentz can pull off an absolute miracle here, or the fans of Philly just get absolutely ruthlessly mean to Russell, it strikes me as one, a square bet, but 2, one that's going to cover, and I'll be on the Hawks.
Yeah, it's not been a good year in Philadelphia, that's for sure. All right, that's a look at his leans for Week 12. Make sure you check out our other segments on his top plays and his toss-up bets, and make sure to keep up with the latest line movement on sportsline.com. For Geoff Sheasby, I'm Steve Overmyer. This is Fanalysis.